And we are live. I'm here with
And
Hal Lane,
there's
Georgia, Bigfoot, and all things crypto. God bless you. Thank you for coming on. It's kind of impromptu.
yeah. Hey, you
Kind of
can't
fast
share
forward.
it. You can't share it over to the crypto group, can you?
I can give them the YouTube link and share that there where it'll be live, or I can wait till we're finished and post the
Well,
finished product.
yeah, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Hey, so anyway, so go ahead, Barry. What you got on the agenda here?
Well, I was thinking we'd talk about, I don't know if verses is the right word, but I've noticed there's two new camps popping up. Some people like the Native American historical accounts,
Narrative. Yeah.
narrative, and then you got the kind of modern day mainstream science that kind of goes against that. All that don't mean nothing. That's just anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
It don't prove nothing. Now I'm on the Native American side. I always said if a Native American tells me something, I can take it to the bank. They know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind science, but like I was telling you before we started, seems to me modern day mainstream science, with a couple of exceptions like Meldrum and Ketchum and a handful of others, have kind of stuck their heads in the sand and dropped the ball when it comes to this cryptozoology, Sasquatch in particular. Every time
Yeah.
somebody finds evidence, the first thing they do is find something wrong with the evidence.
Yeah. It seems like they're always trying too hard to disprove.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the American Indian and the science, I kind of split the difference. I like to look at things scientifically. My problem with and I say this being that my family, my grandmother's full-blooded Cherokee, so it isn't like I can identify with them. Although I'm not American Indian, but I'm part American Indian. Is that I don't like the way they sometimes go too much into things. Well, let me back up. The Bible says that the things of the spirit are more real than the things of the flesh. That all things, all carnal things, were created from spiritual things. So, so, in that regard, in a way, they're really right, but sometimes it seems to me like some of the North American Indian things kind of want to go straight spiritual without considering the carnal aspect of it, and then the scientists want to be totally carnal and they don't accept any of the spiritual. So I like to go down the middle because we do live in a carnal world, even though we also have the spirit realm commingled with it.
All
So
around us. Yeah.
I don't think you can disregard either side really, but it's bad if you are on the carnal side and you don't accept any spirituality to it, or if you're on the spiritual side and you don't accept any carnality to it. So I think you have to take remember that old song by the Pretenders, Middle of the Road.
That one might predate me, Bill. I know who the Pretenders are, but I don't remember that particular song.
Yeah. Well, they were talking political, but and we're talking different here, but but the meaning would mean the same. In other words, I think you have to split the difference. If you go too far to one side or the other, you're really losing touch with reality, really. Because I mean, I'm sitting here right now hitting my hand. That's carnality. That's carnal. But if I sit here and I pray, I'm praying to a spiritual God in the spirit realm. The Bible says, God is a spirit. Those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. And so both exist. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I'm basically showing it right now. If I'm hitting my hand and I'm praying to God, there's the two parts right there. So you can't deny either one of them unless you're a fool, But
no shortage of them. But
oh, you think? Mm-hmm.
I've always said God must love a fool. That's why he made so many. But
Oh, I'm gonna have to
as a
steal that from
delivery driver, we always joke at work, well, I've had my daily brush with death. I can go
uh-huh.
home now every day
Yeah.
in traffic. I've had my
I'm
daily
gonna have
brush with death. I can go home now.
I'm gonna have to steal that from you, Barry. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I think I do more or less what you're talking, kind of middle of the road, because the only thing I
Yeah.
think spiritual about them is their origin. And like I tell people, you and I've got a spiritual, supernatural origin as
That's
well.
right. That's
In
right.
that aspect, we're just as supernatural as they are, if you believe in the Bible. But I
Yeah.
believe they're a physical creature, like I've told people. Until I see one hop out of a spaceship or jump through a portal, then no, I don't think they hop out of spaceships or jump through portals.
Well, they
And
have to
another,
be. They have to be a physical creature because they leave tracks behind.
yeah, I
So
just got done posting the ones I found today.
if they were totally spiritual, they would have no mass to them, and they wouldn't be able to leave tracks. So that pretty much is the end of that. Yeah.
Well, me and Wendell was talking last night. You talk about being Native American, and I got reading some of David Pilates' books, the Hoopa
Yeah,
Project.
I've read them. Yeah.
And I noticed that out there in the upper northern California, in that area where he did his research, the vast majority of the witnesses, and he had an FBI forensic sketch artist do the sketches. And the vast majority of them describe something with a more human looking face. And in most of your Native American narratives, they refer to them as another tribe or another people. They don't refer to them as an animal or as, like you said, they'll give them spiritual aspects. They might claim they've got powers or whatever, but they refer to them as being as flesh and blood as me or you.
Yeah.
And where you got Cherokee, my grandfather was half Apache, which makes me 1/8. I was talking to Wendell. I said, "Do you think it's possible?" And this is pure conjecture on my part. Can these things actually sense or smell Native American blood in somebody somehow? Or
I wouldn't
because it
think
seems
so.
like there's a. You don't think so?
I wouldn't think so. I would think that because we're Native Americans are no different from us. We all basically came from the original same parts of the world, and so mankind is really just one race. If the truth was known, I say that in a generalized sense. I don't mean there aren't different races, but I'm saying we all kind of origined from the same parts of the world and spread out. And I don't think there's that much difference from one person to the next as far as how they would be perceived by Bigfoot. That's just my opinion. I could be 100% wrong though. But I think maybe they would sense somebody that's more in tune, if you know what I'm saying. And I don't mean that in a wooish way, but I mean some people just walk with more awareness of the spirit realm, for example.
I was going to come flat out and say it more. Some people are more spiritual.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. I think back to what you were saying about the more human-like faces. M.K. Davis subscribes to the fact that Patty was very Native American looking. And so, of course, he goes straight to the mindset that that they're interbred with Native American women in that part of the country. I don't know if I subscribe to that. The reason is it's almost impossible all the time for different species to interbreed. It's very rare. I mean, think about it for a minute. Even a mule, even a donkey and a horse, if they breed, it leaves a sterile mule. So they there's no propagation of the species in breeding. Although sometimes a polar bear can cross with a grizzly bear. I mean, that's a fact. They've been killed. And but I think they're sterile. I'm not sure about that one. I'd have to check into that. But if Patty was a half breed, half Bigfoot, half human, then what did the original Bigfoot look like before she was bred down?
Well,
there's the $64,000 question. What did her dad look like, or her mother?
Well, M.K. Davis talking about the crossbreeding and bastardization, I guess the only word for it, offspring. You go back to the Bible, what did it say the Nephilim did? They committed crimes against man and animal.
Well, that's very true. Those were fallen angels, and they did take wives, human wives, and they did interbreed, causing Goliath and different Gebers is what they're called in the Bible, which means a giant. But we don't know if they were if those giants were sterile or not, do we?
No. Well, talking about sterile bastardized races, I know you got coy dogs. Coyotes will get out and mix with dogs, feral dogs. And the best I know now, coy dogs not feral. They can reproduce. They'll reproduce just like a coyote or a dog.
You're saying they're not sterile?
I don't believe they are, because you'll see whole packs of coy dogs.
Well, that would be good to research. You got my curiosity up. Now I'm gonna have to look into that. Yeah. I mean, but still, a coyote and a dog are both canines. Yeah. So they're not totally different species. They're variations within a. I guess you would call canine. Would that be a species?
I don't know if that's not under species, or what's the other word?
A group classification.
Yeah.
That's a little above my pay grade, but
mine too. It's one of them words that's right there, and I can't think of it.
We better be careful going above our pay grades here, Barry.
Yeah, because my pay grade ain't that high to begin with.
I'm right there with you.
I can get in the deep water real quick.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I've always said there's an amazing correlation between the biblical and the Native American beliefs. I mean, if you switch certain words, God and the Great Spirit, you put them side by side,
they're almost spelled the same.
They're talking about the same thing.
Well, have you ever heard of
called him the Great Spirit?
Have you ever heard of the Back Creek Stone in Tennessee?
No.
It was discovered about 80 or 90 years ago, and it's dated at like 5,000 years old, and it's written in ancient Hebrew. Now, what does that tell you? And the Cherokee word for the Great Spirit is the biblical word for God is Yahweh, YHVH. You have to put a vowel in it to pronounce it. So it almost be like Yahweh, like Jehovah almost. But there's no J's in Hebrew, but so Yahweh would be about the only way you can pronounce it. Well, the Cherokee word for God is like Yahala or something like that. They're real close. And so there's a lot of speculations that I've even heard tales that who was it that not Jeremiah, but who was Abraham's son, Isaac. No, Isaac. Who was Isaac's son? Jacob. I've heard that Jacob, I think, is who it was. My memory is not serving me here, but so one of the great biblical characters actually chased Nephilim all the way, or Nephilim, however you want to pronounce it, Nephilim. It's pronounced both ways, all the way into the United States. they followed them on boats, on ships, and chased them over here and killed them over here even. That, and you know the story, the race of the red-haired giants from Lovelock Cave and everything. So I don't know personally if Bigfoot and Nephilim are even related at all. I suppose it's possible, but
well, like
I'm
I
not.
tell people, you and I are descendants of Adam. Sasquatch could be a descendant of the Nephilim, however many generations removed and watered down.
That is always possible, sure. If they were not sterile, it would be possible. Yes. Yeah.
Because like I told people, if you read the Bible, the men of the Bible, especially David and the men of mighty renown and all that, they had abilities other men didn't.
Yeah.
And men lived 6, 7, 8, 900 years back then, where today we do well if we make it to 100. Our genetics have gotten watered down over the eons. Well, it could be the same thing with Sasquatch.
But there was a point there where God decided that we wouldn't live over 120.
Yeah.
You remember that? He said
I remember something about it.
Yeah, your years are now limited. So I think that's what had a lot to do with the long lifespans being cut down. He may have wanted that in the beginning so that there would be a better proliferation of the species. You know, if a guy lives 750 years and has 1,000 babies, the total species is going to grow a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, I was reading today, actually, my nightly prayer with Mom. I read out of Isaiah, and it was one of the verses where God was telling him, I was saying Isaiah to prophesize to all the kingdoms what's going to happen if you don't straighten up and get your act together, pretty much.
I was reading that today, too.
And he mentions tribes and kingdoms and talks about islands across the sea and kingdoms that geographically are nowhere in the Middle East.
What does that tell you? He's
talking about places these people have never been.
Oh, yeah.
I like to try to explain to people when I talk about the Bible in general all the time. You got to realize when God created the earth, he created the whole thing at one time. I said North America wasn't a suburb that he built on day 45 or whatever.
That's right.
So
that's exactly
the whole time the biblical narrative was going on over there, something was going on over here. And there's another passage, and I can't remember what book or verse it's in, but Jesus says, I go to teach my children on distant shores. Well, from the Middle East where Jesus lived and his entire life, you can't get much more distant than the Americas. They would literally be distant shore, the definition of distant shore.
Maybe that's how the Cherokee Indians learned about Yahweh and everything.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know. Yeah.
Back and I always tell people, being Jesus, distant shores could mean Pluto for that matter. Yeah. He's Jesus, he'll go where he wants and do what he wants.
Now, back to the red-haired giants, you know, there's a lot of belief that they were cannibals. And there's many tales of giants in America that were pretty much cannibals. And I'm not sure, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but I kind of personally believe Bigfoot, that classic Bigfoot it may be an omnivore, but I think it leans more toward being a vegetarian. I know there's a lot of anecdotal stories of them breaking deer's legs, and they may resort to that when they have to. But I just have a feeling that the red-haired giants in the Bible, the Nephilim and all the other creatures that were cannibals, I'm just not seeing that in my spirit. As I'm looking in my mind's eye, I'm not seeing that for Bigfoot. Now, and what somebody would argue is, well, then how do you explain all the 411 missing persons and stuff? Well, you know, I guess it's always possible that it happens. And maybe it's possible that they kidnap people just for like children because they're interested in them and fascinated by them, or they kidnap women. You know, Native Americans say that their women, they don't want their women going out in around the forest and stuff if Bigfoot's around, because they're known to kidnap women. And I'm not sure, I don't know if that is anything cannibal.
Hang on a second. Did you hear that? Stay out of the woods. I got Mom over there behind me. Bigfoot's gonna pack you off, make you squall out of you.
Hey, quit scaring your mama.
Well, she had another possible partial sighting just last Wednesday. She was standing in the kitchen doing dishes, looked out the window, and said she saw what just looked like a big black shadow or something go shooting down through the woods, broad daylight, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My latest video, you see me and her talk about it. I went down through there and I found a few impressions. They were heel prints, mostly. There was a muddy path down through there, and just here, there, and yonder, I'd find what looked like a big, deep heel print pressed in, and it was on a slope like that.
Well, they're out there. There ain't no doubt about it. So, you know, and you're kind of in the country a little bit, ain't you?
Oh yeah, we're 15 miles from town.
Oh yeah, you got them. They're out there then.
Tell them I don't go down in the woods. I'm afraid of snakes.
Mom don't go in the woods because she's afraid of snakes. I've told her before I was to get me. Somehow the snake would get in the house, crawl into bed with me in my sleep.
Oh, it's happened to a friend of mine.
That's my way to go. That's my way to go.
A friend of mine that lived near a lake woke up and there was a big old water moccasin in the bed with him. And the guy pulled out his .44 Magnum and shot 5 or 6 times and missed it every time, blew holes all in the floor, and the snake got away.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because it was looking for warmth, and it had gotten chilly that night. So it crawled into the bed, and when it crawled over the lady, she knew it. She jumped out of bed and told her husband. He told her she was crazy. He got up, threw the covers back, and there's about a 6-foot big old fat water moccasin laying in the bed. That's a true story.
The bite wouldn't have to kill me. The heart attack would do it.
Right.
I'd fall over dead on the spot. Water beds are scary. Water beds would attract them. Water moccasins.
Well, you know, a lot of people have died from snakes and never got bitten. They've fallen out of canoes out of fear and drowned, or got hypothermia and died. Not hypothermia, but they drowned, or they fell and hit their head or whatever, or they've been found in cars, people driving down the road and end up running off. You there?
It kind of died on us for a second.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, you know, everybody tries to connect Bigfoot to the not missing 411. David Pilates never has. He's never.
But he has suggested it, though.
Yeah, but he's never come right out and said it. And personally, I don't think Sasquatch has got a lot to do with it myself. I just can't see these people where there's a group of people and the last one in line is like 60 foot away. They look away for a minute and turn around and he's gone. Well, I can't
Well,
see an 8 to 10 foot creature, 1,000 pounds, running up and grabbing him and running off with him, and nobody
but
sees or has a thing.
well, that may be true in some cases, but in other cases, I believe it's possible occasionally because I remember one of his cases, the little boy had disappeared from real close to the parents, and
That's
another
down in
family,
Tennessee. Dennis Martin. That's who you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, and a family saw the Squatch carrying the kid on its shoulder, going up the mountainside. It was seen, and that testimony was just dismissed by the FBI.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm sure it happens, but it just doesn't seem to want to explain all of them to me.
No. Well, I read that account in whichever one of Eastern U.S. or whichever one of the books that was in, and the family said a large figure. They never said Bigfoot. The family witnesses, they just said we saw a large figure with what looked like a smaller figure over its shoulder. And everybody kind of got the cart ahead of the horse. Well, it must have been a Bigfoot packing it off. Who knows? It could just been a big old mountain man.
Well, that's true. That is possible. But the only thing that moves fast enough and is strong enough to really do those kind of things would be a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I don't think people are trying to do something like that. So I do believe it's possible with some of them, but I just find it hard to believe that Bigfoots are just on this big kidnapping mission and just constantly taking children in the national forest. I don't know. It's a tough pill to swallow. It really is.
Yeah, it is for me too, because it wouldn't happen just in the national forest. It would happen.
It would happen everywhere. Yeah.
You leave your kid in the backyard, turn around, they'd be gone.
Yeah,
or,
that's right.
Like you said, your woman too, for that matter.
Yeah,
but going back to that, the Native American tribes warred with each other over the exact same thing. They would steal each other's women and children.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And like I said, I'm 1/8 Apache, and the Apache is one of the few. The Apache and the Choctaw I know of. Me and Wendell was talking about it last time. There's two of the few tribes that had an aggressive kill or be killed, almost blood feud with the Sasquatch. And the one explanation I've heard is supposedly with the Apache, there was a female Sasquatch that, for lack of a better word, went off her rocker. She started abducting the tribe's children, and they'd find them days later out in the forest or something dead, because what I figure is Sasquatch child's probably a lot sturdier than a human child. She's trying to raise these human children and killing them.
Yeah, and accidentally
killed them. Raise right out and kill the female Sasquatch. That sparks the blood feud between the Apache and the Sasquatch.
Yeah,
which to them was just another tribe.
Yeah, it would be kind of like that guy where the kid fell into the gorilla exhibit, and the gorilla was yanking the kid around, wasn't really trying to hurt him. It's just that the human child is so fragile that just they manhandle him and accidentally kill him, break the neck or something without even trying. Yeah.
And I've been trying to hunt down an Apache, somebody that knows more than I do about the lore and everything, to see if that's accurate, how the feud got started. But so far, that's all I've been able to find out about it. But we were talking about, the natives. It wasn't just the North American natives. Your native people all around the world, Alaska, down into Central America, all around the world had, it wasn't just Native Americans here in North America. All had some more or less of a Native Americans, more or less
your audio's gone. Your audio's cutting out, Barry.
Just about how natives all around the world, their legends and not just America. Like that,
Okay, Barry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the audio went completely out.
Can you hear me all right now?
No, you're breaking up now.
I just killed my camera. Does that help me?
Well, give it a try.
Yeah, my camera's off now. Audio only. Does that help at all?
No. It sounds like you're talking through a slinky. No. It still sounds like a slinky. You're good.
I hear what sounds like Hal moving around at his desk or something. Can you hear me at all? Are you there?
Barry, I can barely hear you. It sounds like you're playing a harpsichord.
care.